You're watching BCTV. We're all about Brantford. You're watching BCTV, Brantford Government Television, a service of Brantford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Brantford.
We may or may not close the public hearing, depending on what comes up. And with that, I'll ask Evan or Harry to review the process for participating in public hearings.
Sure. Evan Browning, Assistant Town Planner. If your computer has a microphone for two-way communication and you wish to speak, down at the bottom of your screen, there's a raise your hand, or there's a reactions button. Once you select that, there's an option to raise your hand. Please do so if you would like to participate. You can also type your comments into the chat feature. And if you dial in by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. And please state your full name before you speak.
Chuck Anders, Chair. Thank you, Evan. With that, we'll move then to our agenda items. We'll just go through our normal agenda in the order that is presented. The first item is a 4-3 Elms Road LLC, Kurt Wittick, applicant and owner. For the property address is 4-3 Elms Road. The special exception renovation alterations of an existing non-conforming apartment building, new garage, and associated site changes. Now, I understand that for this one, a variance was required and a variance was denied. And Evan or Harry, can you fill us in on where we stand on this application?
The applicant withdrew the application this afternoon. They plan to go back to the Zoning Board of Appeals in October. So they should be in front of us sometime in the next few months.
Okay, so item number 1 has been withdrawn. That's again 4-3 Elms Road. If you're on that matter is withdrawn. So it brings us into item number 2, which is Brian Love, applicant and owner for 31 Thimble Islands Road. It's coastal site plan, a special exception for grading. And I understand that there's some additional review going on with this one as well. Can Harry or Evan, can you bring us up to speed on where the status is for this?
Sure. This application has to go before the Stony Creek Architectural Review Board. I plan to have them on next week. So hopefully for the September 15th meeting, we can hold their public hearing for a special exception.
Okay, so we've opened this matter as a public hearing, so we'll just open and we'll just continue this without testimony to our September 15th Zoom meeting. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so for item number 2 then, that's also because it needs to go before the Stony Creek Architectural Review Board, we'll simply open and continue this one to our next meeting, which will also be a Zoom meeting on September 15th. So that brings us into item number 3, which is 119 Monowies LLC, care of Elena Cahill, applicant and owner, and that's the property is 119 Monowies Street. It's special exception general or business office. Is the applicant ready to proceed?
Yes. Good evening. Jim Preddy, Criscolo Engineering, 420 East Main Street here in Brantford, representing Elena Cahill. Elena Cahill is also on the Zoom meeting, and so is Robert Tobin, who's the architect, and we'll have him say a few things shortly. I'm going to quickly go over the plans. Hopefully you can see that. So this this building was the old bank that's on the corner of Monowies and Averill Place. It was bank for many years. There's a one-way in off of Monowies, and there was a drive-up window and a remote teller, I believe, here. There was a drive-up window here and something there. And then some parking here and here. and then out here was the remote tellers that there were two booths, and that's what these two lanes are. And you can see oh, if I get to it, the roof canopy actually extended to within only a few feet of the property line on this side to cover the drive area where the car would sit. The building, again, was a bank. It's connected to city water, sewer, gas currently. The proposal is to do some minor parking improvements and some architectural improvements that really don't change the footprint of the building at all. It's some second floor and interior renovations. I'll have Mr. Tobin discuss. We are, as part of what we're doing here with the parking, there's parking spaces that go pretty much almost right up to the property line. We're pulling them back as much as we can and still maintain the number to provide some landscaping, which I'll show you in a minute, between the end of the parking and the sidewalk. The teller overhang is being cut back. The teller booths will be, the roof will remain, but the booths will be kind of taken out and it'll be used as some outdoor workspace. And I'll probably have Elena describe it, but the office use that we're proposing here is like a co-op workspace, and we're providing this little outdoor area as well. But with regards to the site changes, again, some minor parking, just kind of straightening things out. It's, you know, the way it was before, this wasn't parallel, and same thing on this side. We are also, this is a landscape plan, planning quite a bit of landscaping here. There's a fence on this side, some plantings here, plantings along the back, parking plantings, some new stuff along the building, and out at the road. This will still be a one-way in from Monowee Street. So and then two-way from Averill Place, where it's much calmer. We do have, and maybe it's a good time to let Bob talk about what's going on with the building, but I do have plans and elevations and a couple of renderings, but I could share the screen, Bob, if it makes it easier for you.
Will that allow me to use my mouse?
No.
Okay. Yeah. Why don't we leave it there and I'll tell you where to go.
Okay.
The existing footprint on the first floor does not change, and which is the plan on the right. And basically, we're removing the management offices from the bank that are at the front of the building and expanding one of them so there's a kitchen eating or a break area type space for our tenants, and creating 2 handicap bathrooms on the right-hand side. We're going to leave the existing vault there. Used to be determined. Unfortunately, it doesn't meet access code requirements for access into the building. So we're probably going to use it for general storage for Elena. And the existing stair to the second floor does not meet the current building code. So we're adding a stairway right off the rear entrance as you come in the rear entrance. And that's going to require us to add a small area on the second floor to accommodate the headroom of that stair going to the second floor. We are not changing the configuration of the offices on the second floor at all. And basically it'll just be what the bank had up there. And there's a small area at the end of the stair on the outside, which will be for mechanical equipment and have appropriate screening around it. And if we need to expand the screening area, it will go to the right and towards the side, towards Montowies, if we need to expand that at all. And thus will have no real visual impact to the major streets. The elevations, as you can see, the building doesn't change at all. except at the second floor where that bump out is for the stairway, and right behind it is the screening area. Now, on the ground floor, where the drive-up teller windows were at the back of the site, so the drive-through teller windows.
Oh, back there.
What we're going to do is remove the roof that's closest to the property line and shorten that building up and remove the walls in there so it becomes more of a covered pavilion. And that will be a workspace for the employees who want to work outside in the spring and the fall when the weather's nice. And so that will basically be an outdoor work area, which will allow our tenants to sit outside and have a conference or meeting, what have you, out there. What we're going to do is enclose the space between the two, where the two teller windows are, with a wooden screen that blocks the view into the patio from the Averill. And that's the only effective change we're making to that building. And effectively, we're making it smaller, pulling it back within the setbacks required. And so we're also going to improve the fencing along that back wall as it goes to that the next door neighbor in the residential area. And as you can see, we had some landscaping we were doing there, and we were also going to improve the fencing there. And other than cleaning up some damages to the trim molding around the front door, we're not changing any windows. We're not changing any of the siding. The exterior of the building remains the same. And that's pretty much it.
You wanted Bob, do you want me to put the 3D renderings up?
Yeah, we could do that. We could show the one from the rear showing the relationship of the what's the current drive up area. And there you can see the screening to the left there. And you can see how we removed the driveways and extended the planning area and the sidewalk down the road. And you can see also above that blue car in the parking lot, that's the extent of the addition on the second floor.
Jim Preddy, Chris Gold Engineering, and I'm going to go back to the plan for a minute. We did go to town center review with a favorable referral. The one thing that we are showing the required number of parking spaces on there for the square footage that we're using. They asked if we could possibly reduce the number of spaces, and one of the thoughts was, if the commission is acceptable to this, to hold at least these 4 spots in reserve here. This could be a grass area that could kind of extend that outdoor space. There could be some picnic tables here just for sitting outdoors. But that would, the waiver of the number of spaces would really be up to the commission.
And on to speak on that, we had a requirement of 24 spaces. We provided 27, and there were an existing 17. So removal of those 4 spaces kind of drops us down to meet the requirement with an unoccupied basement and obviously an unoccupied attic. But the addition of those 4 spaces, we decided that initially to go to that, and then with the Town Center Board recommendation, we said we would take it under advisement to bring it to you. Are there any questions?
Chuck Andersteer, thank you. I think we'll get a summary of the staff report. Perhaps just one question, just a description of the use again. I don't know, Ms. Cahill or could.
Sure, thank you. The intent is to put in a co-working space, which is office space that is rented short-term and monthly.
Certainly. Is there anything analogous that is out there for this, Ms. Cahill,
Yeah.
that you're aware that we can just?
Not in Branford, in New Haven, in an area of the district, there's a place called The Drive.
Mhm.
And there are places called Spaces. So there are many co-working spaces around. I just don't know of one in Branford.
Thank you.
Hi, Chuck. It's Marcy.
Marcy.
I just have a quick question. How many desks or stations are you providing inside?
Thank you. There would be 10 offices on the second floor, and the rest would be open space where if somebody wanted to come in and sit on a couch or I might create a bar area with stools, they can do that.
So
There would be 10
not a
offices.
desk space. It's living room space, for lack of a better.
Yes,
Okay.
it might look like more living room. Yes, kitchen table-ish type space.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a sense of how many people could be there at any one time.
Mhm.
That's all. In that first floor, to compare it against the parking.
Sure. I would anticipate probably 10 people on the first floor and 10 people on the second floor in offices. And then there is going to be a conference room on the second floor. So if there were people in the conference room, it would be, the potential for that. But the nature of co-working space is that people don't come all the time. They don't come 40 hours a week.
Right. I was just going to ask if you have a sense of how fully occupied or what the flow is as far as on, maybe in your peak period, how many people might be there or.
It's interesting. I spoke to, there's a company that owns the chain called Spaces, and they told me that in their data, it shows that the membership shows that about anywhere between 12 and 17% of the members would be there at any given time.
So how many memberships do you think you would?
I think I would cap it 100
Okay.
with the anticipation that we'd have between 12 and, 14%, 15% at any given time. We're not doing daycare. There are co-working spaces that do daycare. I think that would bring in more others. But I don't think I have enough space here to do daycare, so I'm not doing that.
Right, but if it's 12 to 14% off of 100, that's 14 people at any given time, not 27.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm sorry, I should have said Elena Cahill before I started talking.
Sure. Thank you. Does Chuck Anderson, does the applicant have anything else before we turn over to the staff report and commission for questions?
Jim Preddy again. No, unless there's any questions, well, I'll let Evan go through the report.
Chuck Anderson, thank you, Ms. Preddy. Evan, I think you prepared the staff report on this, so you want to review that with us?
Sure. So the applicant is proposing the shared workspace that she just described to us. Mr. Tobin and Mr. Preddy broke down the proposed site changes. This new use is technically falls within the general or business office use, requires a special exception from this commission. They meet the bulk standards of the BR district. Like they told us, they appeared before the Town Center Revitalization Review Board. They received approval with the recommendation for the reduction in parking spaces. They have provided a landscaping plan for us. The front yard landscaping requirements are partially met, and they're also limited by the position of the building. So I feel that they cannot fully meet this requirement given the nature of the size of the lot and the location of the building. They meet the required parking. No lighting was noted on the submitted plan, but a condition has been added that would require them to meet the requirements of section 6.7. This is technically also a CAM application. So the commission would need to find that the erosion control measures proposed, to the extent that they are alternatives from the Connecticut DEP guidelines for soil and erosion and sediment control, are acceptable. The applicant references control measures in their submitted CAM application. Based on the application materials, it appears that they meet the special exception criteria from sections 9.8F They also satisfy the coastal site plan review criteria. As I said before, they mention erosion control measures in their CAM application. However, I couldn't find any on the site plan. Maybe Jim could point them out for us. But I also had a condition that would require this to be added after tonight's meeting if it were to be approved. And finally, staff has the following recommended findings. Subject to the compliance with the conditions listed below, the commission finds that the proposed use of the property is consistent with the special exception criteria and that the coastal site plan is consistent with the goals of the Coastal Area Management Act. And we have 4 conditions. Prior to the start of construction, erosion control measures shall be added to the plan. And these measures shall be installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. And all landscaping shall be maintained as an ongoing requirement of this approval. And all lighting shall be compliant with the section 6.7 of the Brantford zoning regulations.
Chuck Anderson here. Thank you, Evan. Evan, if we are interested in holding some of the parking reserve, those 4 spaces, we could add that as a condition.
All right, do you think that should be a condition or a finding?
Harry, you're muted.
I think we probably need to put it as a condition that would allow the plan to be modified to show those 4 spaces as to be deferred for immediate installation per section 6.5J.
And that authorizes us to get, if there's a parking issue, to require them to build them out. Is that
Within 6 months of notification of the applicant by the commission? Yes.
so? We would have the right to impose
To require them. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Questions? Any questions, comments from commission members before we open up to the public? Sharon asked about landscaping. Native plants.
Am I getting to be that predictable? Okay. The landscaping looks great, and a majority of the plants are native, but there are some that are not. So I would just suggest that the landscaper go through the plans and switch out those that are not native to be native. So that's one thing. And you're also in an economic justice zone. And so planning to install some electric vehicle charging stations would be to your advantage, because the incentives now are enormous, especially the high-speed charging money is pretty much all used up, but there's still money for level 2 chargers. So you might want to pursue that. And I was just wondering if there was any consideration for solar.
Those are great comments. I have contacted Eversource, gave them the address regarding electric chargers. So I have started the process. I know I have to come back to planning and zoning to ask. So I am very interested in having electric chargers at the location. And Bob, the architect, and I have spoken about solar. I don't think we have fully developed that, but yes, interested in at least looking at solar for sure.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Chuck Anderson here. Thank you, Sharon. Ms. Cahill. Are there other questions, comments from commission members before we open up to the public? Joe, or is anyone? Or no? I'm sorry. I thought I saw hands. I don't see anyone. So Evan, why don't we open this up to the public and see if there's any public comment?
Sure. If you'd like to participate, down at the bottom of your screen, there's a reactions button. Once you select that, there's an option to raise your hand. Please do this if you'd like to participate. You can also indicate in the chat that you would like to speak, or wave at the camera and I'll unmute you. Looks like we have somebody already though. Barry?
Well, I don't know. Perry, are you able to?
Yes, I'm unmuted.
Okay,
Okay, so am I good?
Yes.
you're good.
So Perry Maresca, Economic and Business Development Manager for the town of Brantford. Over the past few years, I've received multiple inquiries and conversations with people regarding their plans or desires for repurposing this building. An apartment complex, a restaurant, retail stores. and offices were all brought forth by different prospects. The shared office space request is the most practical and least disruptive for the neighboring residents. Full disclosure, Elena is on the Economic Development Commission, so I do know her. She also lives in my neighborhood, so I know her. But beyond all that, other people that have come to me about this building prior to her purchasing it, I also knew. So I honestly feel that this is a good addition to that area of town. And also having the shared office space with today's environment, I think also makes a lot of sense. That can help small businesses and other larger businesses that just want to farm out some of their office space. I think it makes sense. So thank you very much.
Chuck Anderson, thank you, Mr. Maresca. Evan, do we see anyone else who'd like to speak?
Yeah, Fred Russo, I'd like to say, ask a question.
Certainly.
The question is to the applicant. What are the hours of the operation?
Thank you. Somebody who will be a member of the co-working can use the facility at any time that they like.
So it's open 24/7?
Yes, they'll have key card access. It's interesting because I work at a university and we have co-working space on our campus, and I'm able to watch what happens. And it seems as though there's usually a population that's an early morning population, and then like the afternoon seems to taper off, and then there's an early evening population. So that's what I've seen in the facility that I work at, but it will be something that the applicant has access at any time that they would like to use the facility.
So the people who are going to use facility technically have access 365 days a year, 24 hours a day.
Yes.
Okay.
Marcy, please, that led me to another question. Is there anybody that's routinely, other than the people that are members, manning the building? Or I'm curious what the approximate fee was, how that's structured?
Yes, there will be. There will be full-time employees, and there will be someone at the property during regular, what might be traditional business hours, somewhere between the 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. There will be people that work there full-time, but there won't be somebody at the building 24 hours a day.
Chuck Anderson, any other questions, comments from commission members or the public, I guess?
I guess I have just Sharon Hutner here. I have one more comment. I also know Elena from the Clean Energy Committee, so full disclosure there. I just think that this would be a good opportunity to bring more people down to the center of town and might help with some of the other small businesses down there. So that's another consideration.
Chuck Anderson, thank you, Sharon. Any other questions, comments from commission? Nothing else from the public, right? So we can close the public portion.
Just before you do that, Mr. Chairman, Harry Smith, Town Planner, I just wanted to propose 2 additional conditions, just in case there's any comment from the applicant team about them while they can still talk. One would be number 5, which would say 4 parking spaces nearest I guess it's the pavilion. Is that what we're referring it to as? Shall be designated as deferred for immediate installation per section 6.5J of the zoning regulations. And number 6 could read, EV charging stations may be added to the site plan at the discretion of the applicant, if you're comfortable with that.
I'm sorry.
Chuck Anderson, Ms. Cahan?
I'm sorry, Harry, can you repeat the last comment? I got the first one I wrote.
Sure. The second one would be EV, electric vehicle charging stations, may be added to the site plan at the discretion of the applicant. So that way you wouldn't need to come back to anyone, and you just put them on the plan. You could install the conduit now when you're doing the parking work, and then get it teed up, and you'd be all set to go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Harry.
Harry, what about if they want to modify to get more native plantings in? Do you need a condition for that, or?
We probably do. So,
Jim Pruddy, Chris Cullen Engineering. I mean, we'll have to submit final plans after, once we get the approval letter anyway. So we can look at the ones that aren't native and adjust as accordingly before we submit them.
I mean, we could have something that says, landscaped, species of landscaping of plantings may be substituted at the discretion of staff or subject to the approval of staff.
Marcy Pluzzi here. I
Sure.
just wanted to note that I saw on the plans that the Criscolla's plans were prepared by a landscape architect, which I was pleasantly pleased to see. And I would, I know his work and he's very reputable.
Yeah, just for the record, I would defer to the applicant's landscape architect, and there are situations where, because of design considerations, et cetera, and conditions, that it may be appropriate to keep a couple of these non-natives possibly, but we can work with the applicant's landscape architect about all that and do as much as we can.
Chuck Anderstair, thank you, Harry. Any further comments by the applicant?
No, thank you.
Great. Any further questions, comments from the commission? Hearing none, I think then we can close this item as a public hearing, and this can be something we can take up, discuss later on after we close our public hearings. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that then brings us then to item number 4, which is Brian Doherty, 616, 626 Leeds Island Road. This is a special exception for grading associated with the construction of a barn within 100 feet of inland wetlands. And I understand we may need to open and continue this one. What's the status of this one, Evan or Barry?
This application requires a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. So we can open and continue. I don't know if we want to do to the next meeting or the following one. But I believe the applicant would also have to grant, actually, I'm not sure if they would have to grant an extension. So maybe we should defer it to the next meeting. And then in the meantime, we can get any extensions that would be required from the applicant.
Okay, is the applicant here on that one?
Chuck, Jim Preddy. Yeah, the issue is that there's 2 streets on this property, so that the barn can't be behind the house. There's a street the front and the back. So we need a variance for that, which they have granted before, so I'm not overly concerned. But we would not be heard till the 3rd Tuesday of October at this point, so we wouldn't be back to you until the 3rd Thursday.
Okay, so the options are, I suppose you could withdraw and resubmit. We can waive the application fee, or do we have enough time? Because we're opening the hearing tonight.
Yeah.
If there's enough time, I would just do an extension and rather than resubmit everything.
Yeah, if you just want to say we're granting us it's what, 30-day extension ought to take care of it, I would think.
Yeah, if verbally
35.
that's okay, then it's granted.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'll send an email tomorrow.
Okay. And do you want to just continue it till that October 20th?
Yeah, October 20th.
Okay.
And the ZBA meets on the 18th, so there is a chance that we can slide right in.
Okay.
And if not, we can ask for a more extension if it's needed at that point.
Okay, so if anyone's here on that, we're going to continue this matter to our Zoom meeting on October 20th. So thank you, Ms. Brady. So item number 4 is continued to our October 20th meeting.
Yeah, let's just say 35 days to be safe, Jim. Is that okay?
Yes, Harry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And I understand Mr. Preddy, acting on behalf of the applicant, has granted the commission a 35-day extension for continuing the public hearing. So then that brings us into item number 5, which is Doug Ledowitz, care of Federal National Mortgage Association, applicant owner, 9 Beechwood Road. A special exception for grading, section 6.8, regrading within 100 feet of an inland wetland. Is the applicant ready to proceed on this one?
I do see Waldo is here, as well as Mr. Ledowitz.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Mark Young. I'm a land surveyor with Waldo Associates, representing the owners of this property. Let me give you a little background here. about 4 years ago, the owner wanted to enlarge his backyard so his kids would have more room to play. So he deposited a large amount of fill in the back there. Unbeknownst, he was unaware of the regulations, apparently. Well, when he was informed of the violations, he asked us to help him deal with it. We had Bob Russo, a soil scientist, flag the wetlands. Then we surveyed the wetlands and did a topo survey of the backyard. Yes. At that time, we prepared a basic site plan, but it never went anywhere. It never got submitted. So in the meantime, the property was foreclosed. It's now owned by Fannie Mae, and we're working with Doug Ledowitz to get the property ready for a new homeowner. So basically, the issues were Phil.
Can we maybe share the screen?
Oh, you should have permission to do that now as Harry Smith, Town Planner.
Thank you, Harry.
But let me make you a co-host. Hang on. There we go. Okay, you should be able to do it now.
Let me just
Yeah. Okay. As you can see, this is kind of a house is set back from the street. There's a steep drop off in the back, which is what the previous owner wanted to minimize. When he placed all this fill, it turned out, as you can see, it was within the 100-foot wetland review zone. Now, we have presented this plan to the Wetlands Commission and it's been approved. So we have wetlands approval for this plan. Basically, what we propose is first we place our erosion control, which will be a silt fence backed up by hay bales all along the base of the fill. Then we will, working from the top with an excavator, basically reach down the slope and pull it back a little bit to reduce the slope to less than 3-to-1 all the way along there. There wasn't a large area that was too steep, but there was some area that was greater than 3-to-1. So we're going to pull the slope back and basically distribute any loose material along the slope and around the flat area above the top of the slope. Any unsuitable material, chunks of concrete, stumps, asphalt, that will be stockpiled and removed off-site. There was a significant amount of wood chips that were deposited there. We're going to try to spread those out across the slope and make a reasonably uniform, smooth grade that we can, and eventually we're going to seed it with a grass seed, cover it with the erosion control fabric, and then plant our shrubs. We have 15 shrubs there. We've specified. Mountain laurel, highbush blueberry, and American cranberry bush. Spread those out along the slope, and that will provide some slope stability and habitat enhancement. Now, there were a couple of concerns expressed in the staff report. Number one, stockpile. Now, I don't expect we're going to have a lot of loose material stockpiled. Most of it we're just going to spread out along the slope and along the flat area there. We do have a location specified on this plan, which we can place the unsuitable materials and we'll just bail them into a truck and take them off site. We did show a large oak tree, 24-inch oak. It was there when we did the survey. In the meantime, it has suffered severe storm damage. The entire crown has broken off. So the tree is basically dead now. So we're just going to, because it's beyond our grading area, we're just going to cut anything that interferes with the grading, leave it to decay naturally, and we'll leave the trunk standing as habitat for the bugs and woodpeckers. So basically, we're just going to clean up the slope, even it off, flatten it out a little bit, seed it, erosion control fabric, shrubs, it'll stabilize it, and it'll be good for the long term. I think, and this will certainly help make the house, make it an attractive home site for a new homeowner.
Chuck Anderson, thank you, Mr. Young. Anything else, or is that?
Dirk Goss, I'd like to add something to this. Fannie Mae is trying to get this property to where it can be sold. Generally speaking, it's in the public interest for this house not to remain vacant or deteriorate. So there is a public interest in getting all the violations corrected on this property and to get it ready for market.
Chuck Anderson, thank you. Anything else? If not, then we'll turn it over to our staff. Evan, did you do the staff report on this one as well?
I did, as the applicant described for us. They are before us today to regrade the backyard, as there was a non-compliant grades and about 480 cubic yards of material brought within the upland review area of a wetland. There's no changes to any structures, so they meet the bulk requirements. Landscaping plan was not provided. However, they do propose plantings near and in the area proposed to be regraded. They also provided a planting list for us. I know that they had talked about the tree at the bottom of the grade, which they informed us this morning that is dead and has been dead for quite some time. However, they plan to keep it for the purposes of being a wildlife habitat. So I did add conditions related to that tree. However, if the commission is okay with leaving the tree where it is, I don't see a problem with the removal of those conditions. They meet the off-street parking. No new lighting is proposed. No stockpile was included on this plan, so I was curious to whether the applicant plans to have a stockpile or they plan to, oh, look, they put their mouse right on it. I missed it. Sorry about that.
We recently added that, Evan.
Oh, okay.
In response to your comments.
Yes,
right.
That was a good catch on your part.
All right,
We didn't
thank
miss
you.
that. But as I said, there'll be very little granular material that will be left over here. It'll be mostly spread out and mostly unsuitable stuff. If there's any stumps or anything in there, we'll take them out and eventually take them off site.
Okay, Harry Smith, Town Planner, just a point of clarification. So the plan you're showing on the screen here is not what's actually in the file. This is slightly updated and revised.
It's revised to today.
Right, it was just revised today to include the stockpile. Everything else is the same.
Okay, yeah, please send that to us, even if you could do it during the hearing, that would be perfect, just so we have it in our record, and that's the proof plan rather than the one that's in our file.
Okay.
To whom should we, can we email that to Evan or?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
no
you can
problem.
email it to Evan, that's fine, yeah.
I'll go do that right now.
Okay, thank you.
As I stated, they received approval from the Inland Wetlands Commission on August 11th, and based on the application materials, it appears that the special exception criteria are generally satisfied. Staff has one recommended finding, subject to compliance listed below. The commission finds, based on the testimony and application materials, that the special exception criteria are satisfied. And I did prepare these conditions prior to the start of construction. The following shall be addressed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. Erosion control measures shall be installed. I had mention of tree protection measures, and that the 24-inch oak tree shall be marked as to remain. But I think we can talk about that when we're talking about the conditions later, whether or not you want me to keep those or not. And prior to the issuance of a certificate of zoning compliance, the following shall be addressed to the satisfaction of the town planner. All conditions of the approval granted by the Inland Wetland Commission on February 11th, 2022, or is that August 11th? Sorry about that. Shall be submitted.
Chuck Anderson, Chair. Thank you, Gary. Questions from, comments from commission members before we open up to the public?
Hi, Marcy here. I have a question. Who selected this, the shrub species?
Could you repeat that, Marcy?
I'm curious who did the selection of the shrub species, and, you know, were they done because those are in the immediate area, and has Land Trust been,
Mark Young, Waldo Associates. We originally selected those species in consultation with a landscape architect, and we've used them on several sites around the shoreline. They're generally appropriate for an upland site such as this. You know, they are native species, and they do well in you know, even in marginal soils.
I just asked because, you know, this is adjacent to a wetland, and you know,
well,
it appears that, you know, these are just common native plants that have used, and I think of the blue bush as being in more acidic soils, and you know, I just was questioning their ability to survive. That's all. So I wasn't sure if somebody had been consulted directly for this project, or if these are just generic plants that you've used because they're good general plants.
As I say, we originally selected those on the advice of a landscape architect, and again, we've used them on a number of sites, and they do well. I mean, if the commission would prefer different species, we'd certainly be willing to take that under advisement. Or if you'd like to add a condition that we review the species selection with town staff before we plant them, you know, we could certainly do that.
Like I said, I was just, you know, I haven't looked at this close enough to know whether, you know, the high bush blueberry is appropriate here. I mean, it is very common in acidic type bog type plantings. It's a great plant.
They do okay in even in a drier soil. The high bush blueberry, you know, it's very versatile. You know, I've seen it growing in I mean, even a number of wetland areas that dry out in the summer, it still does well. So I think it'll be okay here.
Harry Smith, town planner, for the record. I just you may or may not be aware that Ms. Paluzzi is a landscape architect.
I was not aware of that.
You have a ringer.
I guess so. No, I understand the concern, but again, in our experience, these species are quite versatile, and you know, we've used them a number of times in similar sites.
Harrison, town planner, did the Inland Wetlands Agency, they reviewed the plan with the proposed plantings and their locations?
Yes, they're okay with it.
Okay, just wanted to note that.
Chuck Anderson, Chair, any other questions, comments from commission members before we open up the public? If not, any member of the public wish to comment? Evan, you see anyone?
Anyone that would like to speak, please, down at the bottom of your screen, there's a reactions button. Once you select that, there is a raise your hand option. And please do so if you'd like to speak. You can also type any comments into the chat. I do not see anyone this time.
Okay. Okay, so I think the only question raised is whether we want to, I mean, the questions are about the oak tree, whether we delete those two conditions. My inclination is probably yes. I mean, if it's, if we, you know, it's a dead tree, it's not really a tree, it's just a piece of wood. And then the question possibly about reviewing the species, Marcy's raised the question whether the blue bush, the high bush blueberry is appropriate. You need acidic soils for those, and whether we say anything about that in the comments as a condition. Any other thoughts or questions by anyone? Any further comments by the applicant?
Just a thought, we could substitute a clethra for the Highbush blueberry. I know they do well in droughty soils, like my backyard. So that is an option.
Hi, Marcy here. I like the Highbush blueberry plant. I just don't know this site and this circumstance. I know it can be finicky, and it likes the acidic soils, and so I just would need to verify that, but I think the clethra is a very suitable substitute for it as well. It does have a different growth habit. Yeah. So I would consider the ultimate growth and the height of it as far as spacings on the plan. I see that you're trying to make it look natural, which is good. Mm. But in this situation, I would always recommend matching as many of the native plants in the immediate area so that it looks natural. That's really my suggestion. And in lieu of that, I would just like to see a condition that if they don't survive, they're going to be replaced.
Mm-hmm. That's fine.
Harry Smith, town planner, that's pretty much, I think that's in here as a standard condition. So and if it's not, it should be. So we're going to add that in there. Standard landscaping survival condition.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from anyone? Commission members, staff, applicant? Hearing none, then we'll close this matter as a public hearing. And this is something I think we can take up in a little bit. Thank you very much. So that brings us into item number 6, which is Victoria Hunt, applicant, Sharon Leah, and Adonoffi, owner, for 6 Cherry Hill Road, special exception conversion to a 2-family dwelling. Is the applicant ready to proceed with that one?
Yes, I am Victoria Hunt. I'm the applicant and the designer for the addition at 6 Cherry Hill Road. Do I have permission to share my screen?
Harry Smith, town planner, yes, you should. Is there anybody else that would be speaking on this that I should be unmuting?
The owner and her daughter, Victoria Adonoffi and Sharon Adonoffi are here.
All right, and that they're together as one?
Yes.
Okay,
they
gotcha. I can see your group there. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, let me share this. Are you seeing it?
Yes.
Okay, so the addition is an 819 square foot addition to an existing single family home. We have this A2 survey showing that it is well within the bounds of the setbacks. So if I can, there we go. Okay, so the owner of this property is currently bound to a walker. As is, there are no bedrooms or bathrooms on the first floor. So this addition is essentially an accessibility addition. The current kitchen is a galley kitchen and very hard to maneuver around. So this addition opens up the living space to a kitchen area and includes in the back right corner, you'll see an accessible bedroom. They have also been approved for an in-home aide to help with him as he ages. And we also have accommodations for the in-home aide to be able to stay in the space. We had submitted this to Planning and Zoning in December, and we were told by Planning and Zoning to include this with our permit for our building permit, our application for building permit. About, I would say 6 weeks ago, that application was denied because of the kitchen. We were told by the interim inspector that this was an additional unit and not an addition to the single family home. So we are applying now for special exception to make this a 2-family dwelling so that we can have this kitchen in the new addition space that is accessible to the owner of the home.
Chuck Anderson, thank you, Ms. Hunt. Do you have anything else at this time?
No, I think that's it. Oh, I failed to mention the addition of an accessible bathroom as well.
Great. Thank you. Evan, did you prepare the staff report on this one?
I did, like Ms. Hunt described for us, they're proposing a 850 square foot addition to include a kitchen, bathroom, as well as a roughly 700 or 75 square foot deck and ramp for access. They meet the bulk requirements of the R1 district, and they have not provided a landscaping plan. However, existing vegetation can be used to satisfy most of these requirements. They potentially meet the off-street parking requirement. It looks like they have a driveway that extends to the existing two-car garage in the back of the house. The driveway is marked as to be removed. They also have a turnaround driveway in the front of the property. And the proposed addition is to go where the existing driveway is. Thank you, Victoria. She's showing us the 4 parking spaces there. We had added a condition to this approval just in case there were any issues with that. No new lighting is proposed, but a condition has been added that any lighting has to be compliant with the section 6.7 of the zoning regulations. A stormwater management or drainage and stormwater control plan and a soil and erosion sediment control plan were not required as part of this application. And based on the application materials, it appears that the special exception are generally satisfied. Staff recommends 3 conditions. Prior to the start of construction, erosion control measures shall be installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement officer. And lighting shall be compliant with the section 6.7 of the zoning regulations. And then finally, prior to the issuance of a certificate of zoning compliance or a certificate of occupancy, the following shall be addressed to the satisfaction of the town planner. And Harry was actually reworking some of the language on this condition, but is essentially just adding the parking spaces. If the commission hadn't felt that what Victoria is showing here satisfies that requirement. So once we get back into the approval or disapproval, we can go over the exact language of that.
Chuck Anderson, thank you, Evan. Questions, comments from members of the commission before we open up to the public?
Marcy here, just a quick question about the garage in the rear. Are you removing any vehicular access to that building as a result of the addition?
Yes, currently it is being used as a storage garage as it exists currently. They've been using the driveway a bit, but we are severing that access, and the only reason why we were able to do that is because we have enough space in the front to accommodate for even 5 vehicles.
Yep. Okay.
Chuck Anderson, thank you. And any other questions, comments from the commission before we open up to the public? Just a question. Is the question about parking as to like the layout that shows the parking, for example, looks like, you know, one car is stuck between 2 others. Is that compliant with the regulations, even if, you know, the car can't get out, you know, if they had 4 cars there? Not, I don't know if that's.
Harry Smith, town planner. There's a requirement for a 24-foot wide maneuvering aisle. I mean, so this arrangement is really typically, I don't think it's been allowed or really could be. One thing that could be done, we were talking about this earlier, is you could potentially widen out maybe the driveway as it is abutting the structure, so you get 2 cars up there and leave 1 in the turnaround, so you have 3 if you're willing to request a deferral of immediate installation of the 4th space. That would be a way to accommodate essentially how the property is being used with the addition, given the circumstances of the owner right now. But should the property change hands in the future and become a true two-family with two separately tenanted spaces that aren't related to each other in terms of who's living there and what they're doing for each other, there should actually be a layout on a site plan now that would show a true 4-car parking arrangement, either 2 and 2 or however it would work on the site. So you need to sort of come up with that now, but it would not need to be constructed now if the commission approved the deferred parking installation. There's a section in the regs that allows that. If that's a solution is acceptable to the applicant and the commission, then that's something could probably put some words together for a condition to make that happen.
Harry, it's Marcy.
Yep.
It looks like there's a pull over off of Cherry Hill Road.
Yeah, it's about 80% on the right of way, so it would not be we could not count that. I mean, it could be informally, maybe it's going to formally be used as space, but it could not be used to meet the regulation.
And the other question I have, the grade looks quite level.
Yeah, it's reasonably level, I think.
So, I mean, I don't see any reason why you couldn't nose in 2 or 3 spaces right there and with
Well, you got driveway width limitations, so I think maybe the least disruptive thing I could think of was trying to widen out the gravel driveway near the house and then leave the turnaround so there'd be places for 3 vehicles to park without getting in each other's way. They could all pull out, and you could have a plan that shows a 4-car regular parking lot arrangement of some kind on the plan that would not need to be built now, that would just be built if the commission determined it's necessary and the property changes hands into a real kind of 2-family.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's ample space to modify it, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and we could, work it so that maybe there's some other arrangement that works better for the applicant. We could look at that as staff, or we could bring it back to the commission, whichever you'd like to do.
Because right now it's 2 occupants, right? At the elderly.
Well, yeah, but isn't one going to be sort of related to the other? Is that my understanding? The second unit is really for a caregiver for the person in the other unit? Is that sort of how this is working?
Victoria Hunt. Yeah, so this addition is just an accessible addition for the same family.
Right, so it's essentially 1 family and 2 spaces at the moment, correct?
Exactly.
Okay. But I just wanted to cover a situation in the future where it's really, 2 different families and.
Sure, and I also wanted to make a note that there is an accessibility ramp that is being built here. Okay. But this addition, the existing dining room here, is connected through. It's all at the same level. It's all just one large open addition, because there is a doorway here that will be a pass-through between the existing dining and the new open living space.
Okay. But in the future, that could easily be closed off. You could easily have 2 separate distinct 100%. Units with 2 separate entrances and everything contained within the 2 units for them. Okay.
Yes.
Chuck Anderson shares. Ms. Hunt, does that sound acceptable to the applicant? That again, it sounds like the present configuration is okay as an accessible unit, really 1 family, but the scenario, sort of holding 1 in reserve in the event that it becomes a genuine 2-family. It looks like the space is there. We have to show it on the plans, but what Harry was talking about, is that acceptable to the applicant?
Yes. So my understanding is that there would be the exception that if the house were to be sold potentially, then that change would have to be made. Or
yeah, Harry Smith, town planner. There's a provision in the zoning regulations that allows essentially applicants to build less than the required number of parking spaces. So in this case, you could identify on the plan 3 spaces that we would not need to move a car to get in and out of.
Okay.
And then you would have to show us a separate layout for a 4-car arrangement. And if the commission chose, it would need to be built, and the regulations provide for a 6-month window to do that.
Okay.
So it wouldn't necessarily be upon the sale, but potentially could be. So you could, commission could chisel that into the condition right now, or, knowledge of the sale, whatever it is, but they would, be subject to that per going through the process and verbally requesting use of that section, which, we probably want you to do on the record. And we include that in the approval. I think we've got some words. I don't know if they're quite adequate at this point. Evan's looking them over, but so we could talk about that afterwards. But in general, it sounds like that's acceptable. So that
yes,
we were trying to struggle the way to make it work for the people that are living there now, and make sure in the future it also works under the regulations.
Of course.
For future scenario.
Okay. Chuck Anderson, Chair. Any further questions, comments from commission members before we open up the public? Hearing none. Does any member of the public wish to comment? Evan, you see anybody?
Anyone who would like to speak, down at the bottom of your screen, there is an option that says reactions. Once you select that, you can raise your hand to indicate that you would like to speak. You can also write in the chat that you would like to participate. I do not see anyone at this time.
Okay. Does the applicant have any further comments? Again, we're wordsmithing an issue that would, basically allow you to have the fourth space hold in reserve. So essentially you could build it out like now, but if required, then you have to put in the fourth space. Sounds like. Gary?
Yeah, I think that sounds sufficient. Yeah.
Okay. Harry Smith, Town Planner. What's the time frame of the applicants? Because I'm wondering if we did a 2-week delay just so we could really work on the wording, and would that create any problem in terms of schedule or not?
I
believe it would.
It would. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I think we're pretty much there. We'll just do it on the fly a little later as we do. All right.
Okay. Anything else from anyone? If not, then we'll close this matter as a public hearing, and this is something we'll discuss in a bit. Thank you very much, Ms. Sun. So then, that brings us then to going back to our agenda. We have our minutes from our July 21, 22 meeting, and that was the meeting, I believe we approved the Buckley Road application. I understand there's been an appeal hearing. Is that correct of that?
Harry Smith, Town Planner. Yes, that approval has been appealed, and I would suggest possibly deferring the approval of the minutes from July 21st, just so we can take a good look and make sure they're accurate in terms of, and to explain how the actual findings and conditions were arrived at by the commission, because there was some change to the proposed staff findings and conditions.
Right. Okay. So we'll defer then on the minutes of our July 21st meeting. Next item is correspondence. Any correspondence here?
Again, Harry Smith, Town Planner, and we have some communications. One from the town of North Branford, which is proposing a zoning text amendment, which I'll just flip through to see if I believe they're just proposing a flat out prohibition of all defined cannabis establishments as they're defined in state statute. And they just enumerate them. So that's what that's about. And then we have another communication from Crown Castle, which is a company that works on cell towers. And this is for AT&T, and they're proposing an equipment swap out of 6 antennas and some ancillary equipment, all on the tower, nothing on the ground, it seems. So that's going through the siting council approval process. So we just get a notice of that. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Harry.
Thank
And let's bring back the public hearing items that I think we may be able to act on. So that's starting with item number 3, which is 119 Monowies LLC, care of Elena Cahill, special exception for the shared use office.
And again, Harry Smith, Town Planner. I just note that I believe Massimo Liguri voted at the last meeting, so I think Sharon Hutner is up.
Do we need an alternate or are we all? here?
Actually, take it back. That's right. We have everyone here tonight, so nobody gets to vote.
Right.
It's not
I think
full
it's
member.
Yeah,
Sorry
the
about
5
that.
regular members are.
Yep.
I guess are.
Unless someone's sitting out of any application for some reason, but.
Okay, so let's go through the proposed. I think you reviewed the report, so let's just jump to the findings and conditions. And I think there was, in addition to those, there were a few more that were added, like 3 additional ones. So you want to review the proposed ones that we sort of discussed during the public hearing.
Sure. So we proposed 3 additional conditions. Condition number 5, 4 parking spaces nearest to the pavilion shall be designated as deferred for immediate installation per section 6.5J. Condition number 6, EV electrical charging stations may be added to the site at the discretion of the applicant. And condition number 7, landscape planting species may be substituted for approval by staff using native species as much as possible.
Great, thank you. And I think you reviewed the other conditions during the public hearing. So any comments, questions? Again, we're at the 5 regular members here. I mean, it appears to be, I think Mr. Maresca made a good point that of all the uses, it does abut against a residential neighborhood, and it seems to be a relatively quiet use and it's appropriate. Any other questions, comments?
Chuck, Fred Russo.
Fred, yep.
I'm still concerned that in the center of our town, we can have a building and we don't know what the number of people are.
Fred,
you're muted.
I don't know what happened there.
My apologies. I was trying to unmute myself and I hit Fred's by mistake. Marcy. Did I?
Oh, because you're all co-hosts, so you can affect each other. Yeah.
Oh.
Am I on now?
Yes, you're on now, Fred. Fred, continue. I'm sorry.
My concern still is that we have a building in the center of town that will be opened up 365 days a year, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and probably a good amount of time is unsupervised. The building butts up against a residential neighborhood. There's an entrance and an exit on the residential street to allow cars to come and go. And I think, as much as I agree with Perry that the use is good, I think that there should be some restrictions on the time. There's not a building open in the center, and I can't believe that the committee that handles that didn't even ask that question. I think that the town should go to sleep at a certain time. Okay, it's not a factory, it's not an industrial area. It's in the center of our town, and there's not a single building or a single business that is working on that particular condition. And it's not like it's providing some critical use. It really isn't. It's a place to go. And I think that the fact that they want to even convert what was once your drive-throughs or whatever into another building, it's just lots of office space. And the more office space you can create, the more traffic. I agree with Sharon. I think it's good for the town. People will go from there and have lunch. My main concern is that we should not have a building, any building that's open 24/7 in the center of our town, where cars can come and go. I think it creates its own problem in areas that we don't see, because while people are legitimately driving into town to go to work there, that's generally a quiet time. Now police don't know, are they driving into town to go to work, or are they coming into town to hijack cars? And that's not something that's not happening. That's happening too. I see the alerts all the time. So my concern is not what's going in there. I'm okay with all that. I'm really concerned that I think it can't be unlimited hours. Everything we do, there's some kind of limitation out of respect for whoever the building or the property is bumping up against. In this case, you've got it right exiting into a private, into a neighborhood, and someone's coming at 2 o'clock, leave at 3 o'clock in the morning. They come and go. I think that's unsettling for people that live in that neighborhood. I don't have any objection to people working 10, 11 o'clock at night, but I think at some point in time, you can't have people who you don't know that just have access to a building with no supervision coming and going at their leisure. That's what I see. That's where I see the flaw in the plan. I know they do what they do. We don't know how many people. I think the applicant mentioned is like 100 people or so that could potentially use the building. What if it's 25 or 30? Maybe there's a meeting or something. Where do those people go? Where do those people park? Do they end up taking public parking spaces because there's no more space there? I think it really should probably be, in my opinion, limited to the hours. It can be 7 days a week, but I don't think it should be 24 hours a day.
Okay, so Fred's suggesting condition that would impose, I don't know, it's hours of operations, but a limit on the time when the building can be accessed by the members or the renters.
I would submit that if this was this is Joe Chadwick speaking, if this was an apartment building, a residential use, would we be putting the same restrictions on someone entering or leaving their apartment at a certain time of day? There are people who are renting space to work. From my own background, I am accustomed to working at peculiar hours. I can't imagine the rest of the world wanting to work in the middle of the night. But sometimes that's it is a beneficial and useful thing for a certain class of people. I just don't see it as being a necessary restriction, and I see it as being unenforceable. And I think something like that can be arbitrarily enforced and be more trouble than I think it could cause, than it would grant potential benefit, especially for the number of people involved and the kind of use. It's not a pool hall, it's not a bar room, it's not a place where bad people go to do bad things. It's just an office. Right? And granted, people do terrible things in offices, but that's more of a matter of metaphor than actual fact. But in this particular case, I think overregulation is not going to be helpful.
Chuck Anderson Chair, thank you, Joe. So Joe will be opposed to eliminating hours. Let's just keep going. Marcy, any thoughts?
Yes, actually, I would say, how is this use any different from, say, Caldwell Banker, who their realtors have keys and may meet with people at 8, 10 at night, because that's when realtors have to meet with clients. I think the number of people working after 12 or 1 is going to be minimal, but I think what happens is if they have keys, they're all really, it's like their home, they're treating it like their personal space while they have that key. And, I guess the question would be, how many keys you're going to let out before you start changing the locks? If there's an incident, are you going to change the locks? But I think that's a management issue of the owner. It's not really controlling the hours isn't any different than what would happen on Main Street. I would go into various buildings on Main Street at odd hours, not ridiculous hours, but at night, because I had to run in and Xerox something or what have you. And it's not unheard of, and I can't see us imposing that restriction on this use when we don't impose it on other office uses in the center.
Chuck Anderson Chair, thank you, Marcy. So you'd be opposed to that, imposing an hours restriction. Joe Vayuzo.
What I see is these people are renting that office space, and they have the keys to that space. There are times when somebody has to do their work, and it's maybe odd hours, but so they may get there at those odd hours, midnight or whatever, to do some work. And it's quiet work. It's not like you said, like Joe said, with a bar or anything like that. Basically, I'm saying is you rented the place, your spot, and I believe you should be able to go in there anytime that you wish to do so. I'm opposed to putting restrictions on that particular situation.
Chuck Anderson, thank you, Joe. So you'd be opposed. I would also generally oppose it. We have other offices, other uses in the town center. We don't typically put restrictions on hours of office uses. I mean, right now, today, if anyone wanted to in an office building, they could go there at any time. I understand this one, it's abutting against April Place, and it's right against the residential neighborhood, but I don't particularly see it as I mean, we haven't done it for others, and I don't see it as likely to cause a problem. And if it does, I expect management could address it. And if they get some complaints, there some management to ask them to do something to quiet down or something. So I would not be in favor of that as well. So then that brings us. So Fred, I think I kind of 4-1 on that one.
I did my best.
Right, you did your best. Yeah, good one. So looking out for the neighborhoods, that's what we got you there for, Fred. So so what? Anything else? We've got the 3 additional conditions. Does anyone else have any other comments or anything else they'd like to add?
Marcy here. I meant to say when they were reading the new condition about the planting that I think it should reference, in conjunction with the landscape architect of record. Just because, their basis for selecting plants should be, communicated with the, the Harry and so forth. I understand the need for natives. I'm not saying natives aren't appropriate, but he's the landscape architect of record. He should be the one proposing the changes or adjustments with town staff.
Okay, so Harry Smith, town planner. So maybe for approval by staff, as may be proposed
in coordination with
the applicant's landscape architect
of record. Yes, that makes me feel a little bit more like they're included. But I mean, generally, just as far as the project goes, I think that they're, the 4 spaces, it doesn't seem like they're needed. I don't see this being intensively used, which so I think is a very compatible use for the neighborhood. I feel like, they are proposing a number of trees, which is good. There's a huge tree up front, which would make, planting difficult. So I think that was a good call. And, I just, I tend to be in favor of it and would wish them the best of luck. I am in favor of it, I should say.
Okay, Chuck is here. Thank you, Marcy. Any other comments from the regular members? If not, if someone will make a motion to approve the application by adopting the findings and conditions as revised and as proposed in the staff report.
Marcy here. I'll make that motion as presented.
Motion made by Marcy. Is there a second?
Chadwick seconds.
Second by Joe Chadwick. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Joe Chadwick in favor?
Chadwick in favor.
Fred Russo?
No.
Opposed? Joe Baiuso?
Favor.
Marcy?
In favor.
And chair is also in favor. So that application is approved. So then let's go on to the next item that we discussed, which I believe was item number 3. The next one was item number 5, I believe. That was the Douglas Fedowitz, the Federal National Mortgage Association, 9 Beechwood Road, special exception for grading. And I think I want to pull up the staff report. Evan, you've done that. And first, I guess one thing is the B and the C. That was remember there's the dead tree, and if we thought that was a live tree, I think that would be we probably want those in there, but as clarified, and when Evan wrote this, thought it was a live tree, and they since clarified it's a dead tree. So so I guess do we want to take this out? I'm okay with taking it out. What does everyone else think? Joe Chadwick, what do you think?
I mean, the argument to leave it for wildlife is kind of compelling, but given my experience in an awful lot of the land trust properties in Young's Pond with large fallen trees, they may get more than they bargained for in a residential neighborhood. I don't think they should just sort of basically figure out what they want to do with the tree, whether it's turn it into firewood or leave it. But I'm not sure we really, being as you referred to it as a piece of wood, I think we should just let it up to the applicant and not even deal with it.
Right, so that means we delete the conditions, because if we leave the conditions in,
yes,
they have to mark it as it has to remain, and if it's removed, they got to replant it. So I'm saying, I think the suggestion would be just delete those so the applicant can do whatever he wants with it. I think that's the fact, right?
Harry Smith, Town Planner, maybe to suggest leave the part of B that says, and then reword it to say a 24-foot oak tree shall be deleted from the plan, because it's not really a tree anymore. And as Joe Chadwick's saying, that would, I think, just leave it up to the applicant to take it down or leave it up, whatever they want to do with it.
And it's basically the reference to the 24-inch tree is understood to have died or become unviable since the plan was presented.
Yeah, we could just take it right off the plan, so it's just not, it's not a tree anymore.
Right.
Yeah,
and just get rid of C, and there you are.
Right. If there's something about the plan being a matter of record at this point,
well, yeah,
that it's unviable and no conditions are attached to it.
Yeah, you just remove it from the plan. It doesn't need to be on the plan because it's not, they need to note trees, but it's not a living tree.
Yeah.
Marcy Paluzzi, it's not a living tree, but the stump and how much of the tree remains on site? Is it the potential hazard of falling on the structure?
I think it's downslope, so I do not think so, but I think we can leave that to the property owner to decide. If they think it's a hazard, they can take it down. It's a bank. They're going to do what's best to market the property and make sure it's safe. And I don't know if you need to get into, managing it to that degree personally, but that's up to you.
No, I don't particularly either. I just was getting a little hung up on if there once was a tree there that, it happens all the time. So, to me, I agree to take it off if it's not going to survive. And if we're filling in the root zone, it's certainly not going to survive if it's
no. My understanding is it is dead now.
Yeah.
So if you leave it on the plan, then it becomes a significant tree because it's noted as more than 12 inches, and then that kicks in all those regulatory requirements and the regulations for a living tree when it's dead. So
you're right, Harry. It's a non-living item, so it
shouldn't even be on the plan. Just take it off.
Okay, so delete the last three words of B, as to remain. Just put a period after site plan.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so Fred, is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, Harry Smith, Town Planner, and then I think Marcy talked about having the standard landscaping condition, which would be the same as condition 3 in the approval for 119 Monterey Street. And I can read it out if you want me to. Maybe Evan can cut and paste it in really quickly. I don't know. It says to ensure continued compliance with the zoning regulations, section 6.3, all landscaping must be maintained as an ongoing requirement of this approval to ensure survival of landscaping. Any landscaping element that becomes significantly damaged must be replaced in kind.
And
so it's
then
pretty much the boilerplate condition.
Okay. And 2B, they changed February and 2A to August, right?
Yes.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay, so any other comments from anyone? So if not, does someone want to make a motion to approve this application by adopting the findings and conditions as revised in the staff report?
Joe Vayuso, so move with the approval.
Motion made by Joe. Is there a second?
Fred Russo, seconds.
Second by Fred. Further discussion? All those in favor, Joe Chadwick?
Chadwick in favor.
Fred Russo?
Favor.
Joe Vayuso?
Vayuso approves.
Marcy?
In favor.
And Chair also is in favor. That then brings us to item number 6, which is the 6 Cherry Hill Road, which we just considered, and that's the staff has had time to play with a condition about the parking spaces.
Yes.
So Harry Smith, Town Planner, this is what we've kind of cobbled together here. So this would require the site plan to be modified to show, as opposed to what you saw on the screen, the 4 spaces, to show 3 required parking spaces for a 2-family dwelling using the current driveway area. You should probably take out the words, because I think you would need to widen the driveway area up near the structure. Maybe just get rid of base. After the word 2-family dwelling, just put a period and lose the rest of it. We'll just work it out. So we'll leave it up to the applicant to come up with something that is acceptable to staff.
Hi, this is Marcy here.
Yep.
Is it really a 2-family dwelling or a dwelling with an accessory use?
No, it's a 2-family, because in this zone, you can't have an accessory apartment.
Okay, thank you.
And it's actually, they actually applied for a 2-family.
Okay,
Yes.
I just wasn't clear, thank you.
Yep. And then the second part of this would require also a layout showing all 4 required parking spaces conforming to all the requirements of 6.5. We should probably modify that to say such spaces shall be labeled as immediate. What have we said last time? As deferred for immediate installation per section 6.5J.
It's only 1 space that's being deferred, right?
Well, they may probably, it's 1 space, but it's probably going to be laid out differently. So, the 4th space. You're right.
Not deferring all.
So such spaces, substitute out, change it up to say the 4th space.
This
So
one?
it'd be, nope, down below and B. So instead of such spaces in the last sentence, you can say the 4th space.
I see some squinting eyes, so I thought I'd zoom in.
I think I was squinting too. There might be my eyes. Thank you.
Right. Okay. And 6.5J has all.
That's that section that requires the construction of the space within 6 months if the commission requires it. Now we could talk about the sale of the unit or just leave it.
Just leave it.
Leave it. Okay. That's what I thought. Perfect.
Do we need to make a finding that it's being deferred because it's no, or it's already in there? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's implied.
Okay, that's good enough. Okay, so any questions or comments by anyone? I think that does the trick, allows them to build the thing, not really just show a layout for 4, but use what they propose for the 3. Given that it's really it's not a real 2-family, it's just a single family with permanent health care, it looks like. If it looks okay, if someone will make a motion to approve the application with the conditions as revised that are by staff that are currently right before us.
Marcy, you're gonna make that motion as presented?
Motion made by Marcy, who second by who?
Chadwick.
Chadwick. Further discussion, all in favor, Joe Chadwick?
Chadwick in favor.
Brad?
In favor.
Joe Vayuso?
Vayuso in favor.
Marcy?
Marcy's in favor.
Chair's also in favor. Brings us then to old business. Old business item number 1 is Sound Real Estate. And that's something that we have an application scheduled for our next meeting. That's right, special exception. That's right. Okay. And item number 2 of old business is 819 East Main Street LLC, a special exception for research lab. That's a fairly significant project, Sullivan Farm. And that's also scheduled for a public hearing at our next meeting, at our September 15th meeting. That brings us into new business. There's 3 items of new business. I think all of these are new applications where we'll need to schedule public hearings, or are they all? Am I right on that? Item number 1 looks like a special exception conversion to a 2-family, and we need to set a public hearing for that.
Yeah, Harry Smith, Town Planner, would suggest the 15th, and I believe we've already queued it up in the public hearing legal notice.
Oh, that's the 28 Park Place?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so well, that'll go on for the 15th.
Right.
Okay, item number 2.
The same thing. We've already teed it up for the 15th, if that's acceptable.
Okay. Great. So we're gonna have we've got a lot of things, public hearings on the 15th, don't we?
We do.
Okay.
We do. And the new business number 3, staff would suggest that be tabled. We're still working on that application with the folks that submitted it.
Okay, so we'll just table item number 3. That brings us into other business. Number 1 is the update to the official zoning map. Barry, what's going on there?
Harry Smith, Town Planner. We have finally, through our Geographic Information System consultants, updated what is an old, at this point, official zoning map that we have on our website. Dates, I believe, from before I got here. We've double checked and triple checked all the zoning map amendments that have been approved by the commission. So we sent one in everyone's packet. Either this meeting or at a future meeting, if folks want to take a look at this themselves, I would just simply request an acknowledgement that this is the new official zoning map that reflects a compilation of current zoning and all the zoning map amendments that have been approved by the commission since the last update. And then once we have that, we'll post it on the town's website and make it available to people.
Okay, so you're looking for an acknowledgement from the commission that you've done this, you certify that to the best of your knowledge that it incorporates all the changes that have been made, and just seeking approval from us to go ahead and publish that, to replace the one that's on there now with this one, which is the updated one.
Yeah, the only thing we probably do is remove the signature block, which is really not needed that I know of legally, and they put it on it, and I've seen it done in other towns, but we do not need to do that, so we can take that off.
Is that okay? Joe Chadwick, that okay with you?
Chadwick is totally in favor.
Okay, Fred?
In favor.
Joe Vayuso?
In favor.
Marcy?
Favor.
And Chair's also in favor, so you can go ahead and post that, and
okay.
Thank
you very much.
Number 2 is a bond establishment for 69 Todd's Hill Road.
We received a request from Frank Vigliotti to establish a bond for Lot 2 at Pondview. This is addressed at 69 Todd's Hill Road. It is for installation of a driveway apron and about 210 square yards of a lawn seeding. We do not, as you're aware, have a full-time zoning enforcement officer. So we received this not too long ago. I did have the unit prices checked with the town engineer, who was satisfied with them for the seed and for the driveway. That's the driveway apron's a standard amount. So staff would recommend, I guess, as interim zoning officers collectively, myself, Evan, and John Rosatsky, that the commission establish a bond in the amount of $815 as recommended by the applicant and reviewed by the town engineer for installation of a driveway apron and lawn seeding at 69 Todd's Hill Road, Lot 2, Pondview.
Someone want to make a motion to approve that $815 bond as Mary just described?
Fred Russo, I'll make that motion.
Motion by Fred, is there a second?
Chadwick seconds.
Chadwick seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor? Joe Chadwick, favor?
Chadwick in favor.
Fred Russo?
In favor.
Joe Vayuso?
In favor.
Marcy? Marcy's muted.
All right, Marcy's in favor.
Okay, and Chair's also in favor. Okay, item number 3, zoning enforcement officer. What's going on here?
I'd just like to announce that we have hired a new zoning enforcement officer full-time. The woman's name is Jane Ellis. She is currently with the engineering and building department right here in Town Hall, not too many feet from my office. She is familiar with town, familiar with our zoning permitting and building permitting system. And we are looking forward to her getting up to speed in zoning matters. It will take some on-the-job training, but we are fortunate to have a part-time zoning enforcement officer, John Ruzatsky, who served for 35 years as a zoning enforcement officer in the town of Stratford. And we'll be, augmenting his attendance with, time for myself and Evan Brining and probably some outside sources as well. And of course, the usual Casio training courses. So I think she will not be starting until the 19th. So we can talk later about designating her. I think it's section 8-7, if I remember right, of the general statutes as a zoning enforcement official, empowered by the commission to do that. And when that designation should take effect. But that is good news because we are looking forward to having the chair filled. So I can move on to the planner's report unless anybody wants to say about that. Okay. I just note that we did make some small headway, maybe a little more than a small headway, with revising section 6.8, which has been created the need for a lot of applications and reviews that I don't think in every circumstance provide a lot of benefit. So we're looking to back off on some of the requirements, particularly where there's redundant review by the Inland Wetlands Agency. So any development within 100 feet, basically in the upland review area, that is within jurisdiction of the Inland Wetlands Agency. Evan's been working on that, and when we've made a little more progress, we'll bring that to you. Looked at some potential guidelines issued by DEP for large-scale solar arrays. You may remember in the approval of that, we've finally backed away from allowing that. So I think the person who proposed that regulation change is interested in proposing that part of it again, with some more definition about how to manage stormwater runoff and probably vegetation under these things and so forth. So that'll be coming at some point. There is an application for Cherry Hill. This is 175 Cherry Hill Road, way at the end. You remember that property at the end of Autumn Ridge? That was denied because it didn't have a through road. Well, they are now proposing a through road, and that is at Inland Wetlands. And I expect that probably be wrapped up in the Inland Wetlands meeting this month. So I'll be coming back to you in October, November, I would imagine. We also have a lot of projects under construction or about to be coming under construction. So they're going through the process of complying with all the conditions of approval, or we're monitoring construction and sometimes looking at minor changes to plans and so forth. The Parkside Village 1 project is getting ready to get going. Aldi's and Chase is just about wrapped up. So I don't know if you've been into the new market. I have not been in there yet, so I'm looking forward to doing that. There's a couple of loose ends there that need to be dealt with, and that property, I believe, has changed hands, so we're hoping to have that wrapped up fairly quickly. The Goodsell Marina Village, I believe it's called, the end of Goodsell Point Road. The site has been opened up, and they've gotten approval to start the first 3 units in terms of putting foundations in. The project, the former Days Inn property at Exit 55 is well underway, and looking towards getting the first building or two probably open within the next month or two. The long delayed Bosch and Strobel sort of research and development building at North Branford Road and Thompson Road, I believe, is under construction. And this is the old, I can't remember, Bronson Farm. That's it. So there's a vet that was got built on one of the lots of the Bronson Farm subdivision up near where the railroad comes across. And they are now building this research and development the other side of North Branford Road. And then there's the brewery going in, Cersei's Brewery. So the Cersei's Brewery is starting construction of Bosch and Strobel is well underway as well. That Sterling Ridge development along Cherry Hill Road across from Richlands, backing up to the Harrison House, is well under construction. And there's a few changes desired by the applicant that may be coming before you fairly soon. Mariners Landing is getting close to starting to pour footings for, I think they're going to do that for all 4 of the buildings at once and start on 3 of them. They've been doing some grading work out there in preparation for that. Gould Lane subdivision is getting close to wrapping up. I think the last 3 structures are being constructed right now. So that's a lot of activity in town, and there's other things being contemplated, but just want to give you a little idea of some things that are happening that you don't see going on.
Speaking of long delayed, what's that big one on Meadow Street? I forget the name of it. I have talked to the applicant on that. That is Bob Smith of MetroStar, and I believe that is in court. And I understand they have a court date this fall, and hopefully that will lead to some resolution of that, and that can get underway. I know the applicant who owns the approval at the moment is interested in doing the project, and hopefully it can go ahead. He's still interested and thinks it's a great project and wants to make it happen. Okay.
So that is it, and I believe we've got a get together tentatively set up for a week from tomorrow. So hopefully everyone can make that, and we've been in touch with John Lust and Paul Higgins, and I believe they can both come.
That'd be great. So that's 5 p.m. Friday, September 9th for John and Paul at the Stony Creek Brewery. I think it's just to be informal. We'll just go grab a table or something, and
Yeah, there are 2, I think, 2 food trucks you told me available at night. You cannot bring food, but there should be something.
Naples has pizza and one other thing, and then you have one other food truck usually on weekends.
Yeah,
I've been told. Not that I ever go there.
Of course. So I think that's all I have. Evan, is there anything I'm forgetting that you may have, or anything else anybody else wants to mention? Talk about?
Harry, one thing while I'm thinking of it, because I forget about that, but remember the accessory apartment opt-out? I don't know if we've referred to that.
Yes, and I need to get a letter to the RTM, and I will do that. I believe we need to go to the RTM, go to a committee, come back to the RTM. So I'll get that out the next week or 2, because the clock is running.
Yep.
And I remember the other opt-out was the parking. I believe you do not want to pursue that at the moment, right?
Yeah, I don't know if we talked about it that much.
Yeah, there's no deadline on that one as far as I know. I think you can opt out whenever you want to opt out if you do want to opt out. So
right.
We're sort of letting it ride. And there is a training. We'll get some more information as it develops, but I believe there'll be online training available through it's called CLEAR, the Connecticut Land Use Education something. But I believe starting in 2023, commissioners need to complete some kind of annual continuing education, and we'll give you more information on that as we get it.
Yeah, the Bar Association's doing their every other year thing next March.
Okay, at Wesleyan, or what used to be at Wesleyan, right?
It used to be at Wesleyan. It'll be an online thing.
Okay, that's great. That's really useful.
Saturday in March.
Were you at Hot Topics? Because I was going to go to that and could not.
there was a Casio one. I mean, well, I did one. Yeah,
At the Mark Twain, I think
Yeah,
they did a
yeah,
live
I was
event,
at that.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think that's all I have. But Sharon has something. Yeah.
So I thought we were suspending Zoom meetings. Am I?
Well, we were going to talk about it. At this point, we had to put a public hearing ad in for the second meeting in September anyway.
Okay.
I did check with the administration, and I think there was a question of whether, they were working on the technology to come up with a hybrid meeting as a technical possibility, as an option. That's not available yet, and they lost someone in the IT department, so I don't know when, if ever, that it's going to really be put in place. I just don't know. So our options really, I think, are stay Zoom or go back to in person. You could do it so that we space chairs out again and we ask applicants to come in and give them a ready room or something. So not everyone, it's not a big group of people, but it's very difficult if you could have, it's Buckley Road type of development where a lot of people are interested in and want to come and talk. I don't know how you, manage that without allowing everyone in the room.
So then to continue on Zoom for the time being.
Well, you guys tell me, but at least we would certainly need to do it through September anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we took a general poll at the last meeting in July, and I thought the majority of commission and staff wanted to continue on Zoom. That was my sense.
Right. That's what I thought as well.
Yeah, and I was going to investigate, hybrid over the summer, which, I did at least see what was going on anyway.
Yeah, hybrid, I think would be great.
But for now, so if I take that as a consensus for now, and, you can bring it up again at any time, but for now, we'll stay with Zoom until we hear otherwise from everyone.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
Anything else?
I don't have anything else.
Okay, great. Someone will make a motion to adjourn then?
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Fred Russo.
Motion by Fred. Is there a second?
Sharon Huntner seconds.
Sharon seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 At 8:58, we're out.
All right.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Brantford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BrantfordTV.org.